Welcome back to Auto Mastery University. I'd like to tell you why I deserve to be your coach. For the last 40 years, I've been in the automobile business. As a matter of fact, I've worn every hat in a dealership, including general manager and used car dealer. My dad was a car dealer, my grandfather was a truck dealer, and my mother was a truck dealer for over 30 years. I've also been in the training end of things for the last 25 years, with big companies that trained on leasing all over the world, and also for manufacturers. And I worked for the biggest dealer group in the country, training on everything sales as well as some service. For the last 10 years, I've had my own business where I train on sales and leadership, personal development, and I'm a life coach as well as train on service. So I'm pretty darn qualified. But I have to tell you, I wasn't very good at this when I started. When I was about 21, I remember after a quick little stint at college, telling my dad I wanted to sell cars. And he said, well, you can't work for me. He said, I want you to go work for somebody that has a good training program. So he recommended me to go to a friend of his by the name of Phil. I sat down with Phil, interviewed, Phil hired me. For 2 weeks, they had a training program. And I worked in the parts department, service department, and watched videos upstairs for about 9 days, it seemed like. After that period of time, on a Thursday night, I'll never forget it, they cut me loose. Not fired me yet, but they allowed me to go talk to a customer. When I talked to the customer, I asked him some questions, found out his name was Bob, and he was looking for an F-150 pickup. I showed him what we had, got excited about a truck, took him for a demonstration drive, then said, Bob, come on in. Brought him inside, sat down, got him a Coke and a coffee, and I said, let me get you some numbers. I gave him some numbers on that particular vehicle, and he ended up buying it. I was so excited because I thought, well, this is easy. All I needed to do was get in front of customers. That night, I went and partied. I had some bad habits back then, and I overslept and missed the Friday morning sales meeting. And Phil fired me like that. Feeling just stunned, I went to my dad with my tail between my legs and asked for his forgiveness and asked him, do you know anybody else that might hire me? He had another friend. His name was Stan, who owned a dealership in a small college town. I interviewed with Stan and went to work for him. I worked hard for 30 days and I sold one car. And Stan said, Bart, I don't think you're fit for this. And he fired me. So I've been at 2 dealerships, 6 weeks, 2 cars, 2 jobs. So I guess I wasn't fit for this. I quit, and I quit the business, and I decided to dig ditches. And you know what? I hated that job. If you ever had a job you hate, you know what I'm talking about. One day, my dad called me and said, hey, Frank wants to hire you. Now, Frank was the #1 Ford dealer in Northern Ohio. He was a friend of my dad's. They happened to have drinks one night, and Frank asked about me. My dad told him, and Frank said, I want that kid here. That kid can sell cars. I went to work for Frank. I had somebody who believed in me. Guess what happened? I got Salesman of the Month, my first month there. Now you might be asking, how did you go from loser to Salesman of the Month? And I will tell you, it was because of the steps to a sale. Years later, I ended up moving to Northern California and worked for the #1 Toyota dealership in Northern California. That business was so busy. They had 60,000 cars going by every day. And frankly, I got some bad habits. I started shortcutting the process. I asked people to buy before they even sold on a car. After about 3 months where I was struggling, my boss sat me down and said, hey, if you don't have a good month this month, we're going to fire you. I said, Russ, I have 2 brand new cars and a house. He said, you're not getting it done. I said, what? Russ, what am I doing wrong? And he said, you're skipping steps. I remember driving home that night, having dinner with my family and saying, I am going to not skip any more steps. I'm going to do it exactly the way it's supposed to be done. I went back to work, and guess what happened? See a trend here? I got Salesperson of the Month. And it was all because I followed the steps. Now, as you're watching this, COVID-19 pandemic is going on. And the result of that is experts say that less people are going to come into dealerships and more will be wanting to buy a car virtually, either by e-leads or phones or just not even having to come into the dealership. That is looking to be true. Maybe the Amazon way of selling cars is in the future. I don't know right now, but I do know this. There's different ways you get customers. One is fresh opportunities. Those are people that drive up, and we're going to tell you all about that later. Another one is e-leads, where a customer sends in an e-lead. Another one's phone ups. Another one's social media. There's also friends and relatives and past customers. We'll talk all about that. But the steps to the sale, no matter what you do with them, no matter where you get them, the steps to the sale are still the same. Even if you send a car out of state and you never meet the client, the steps are the same. There's some tweaks, and we'll talk about that as we go along. So I'm going to give you the steps, and they'll also be on the screen, and we'll drill them down on following courses. Number one, introduce and welcome. And meet and greet. It's another way to look at it, another word for it. Number two, information gathering and needs analysis. We're going to gather information, find out what they want and what they need. Number three, select a car. Hopefully it's in stock and inventory. Number four, sell the car. Do what's called a walk around. Number five, demonstration drive. Take them for a drive in the vehicle. Now again, they might do it virtually. We'll talk about that as we go along. Number six, trial close. Number seven, give numbers. Number eight, transaction and agreement. Number nine, get the paperwork done and send them into what's called F&I, which of course is finance and insurance, and they do all the paperwork. And number 10, do the delivery. If for some reason we didn't sell them, we've got to follow them up, and we'll talk about that big time going forward. And if we did sell them, we want to follow up and ask for referrals, and we'll talk about that too. So you saw the steps. We're going to drill them down. Let's get ready. Go ahead and answer some of those questions and get ready to start going to work. And let's get to 20 cars a month fast. We'll talk to you next time on Auto Mastery University.